Welcome to Within WordPress, your favorite podcast. I hope it should be your favorite now, but maybe even more so after this one. Uh, because today we have with us Jessica. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, Remkos.
And I say this because I think you have a very interesting story from the world of WordPress. You do not do one thing, you do actually quite a few things. Um, you're from Germany,
Yes.
and we most recently met at WordCamp Germany itself. Um, what were you doing there? Let's start with that because I have a few questions about the different roles you have within the community and the things that you do. I'm quite curious of how everything came to be in your world. But please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Uh, Hi, everyone. As Remkos already said, my name is Jessica. My last name is Lyschik. Often people don't know how to pronounce it. So here you have an example. Yeah, I'm a WordPress developer from Germany. I have recently started working with Grade, a Munich-based agency slash product company within the WordPress field. And yeah, I've been contributing to WordPress for quite some years. I actually started my community journey, let's say, in 2014, actually, at WordCamp Hamburg.
Yeah.
And yeah, never looked back. And over time, I just tried out different things, like how can I contribute? And like you said, uh, most recently, it was WordCamp Germany, which was one thing. And then there was the latest WordPress release 6.4, where I was also involved.
Yep.
But
I have a question lined up about that as well. So
let's start with WordCamp Germany because like you already teased everyone into this. And yeah, it was the first WordCamp since 4 years. So the last WordCamp in Germany happened before the pandemic kicked off in November 2019. Yes.
which one was that? The previous?
That was WordCamp Düsseldorf.
Oh, yeah, Düsseldorf. Yes, I remember.
Yeah.
I think I was there. Was I? No, no, I was in Köln.
Oh,
Uh,
I don't know. It just happened 3 weeks earlier. We had WordCamp Stuttgart. So there was quite a busy month for WordPress people in Germany.
would
But
would you say that people from so Germany obviously has the wonderful and world famous Autobahn, makes it easy to travel through Germany. If I mean, um, I live next to Germany, so whenever I go on vacation, I pass through Germany, and always enjoy driving through it. But would you say that Germans are accustomed to travel a lot, maybe easier than other countries when it comes to going to WordCamps and stuff like that? Like if it's a WordCamp Hamburg, will you see people from Stuttgart or München?
everywhere. It's like we have this, I would say, like core people
Yeah,
who you can meet at every WordCamp.
I think I
So
know them.
that's, probably most of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So like when you're like attending a German WordCamp or even WordCamp Europe, a lot of people travel there. So yeah, usually you do not have that people only go to the events in like their little area
Yeah.
of their country. But in Germany, we pretty much have a like nationwide community actually. So yeah, that's pretty fun actually.
And it looks like that. So you mentioned there's a core group going from WordCamp to WordCamp, and I see those. And I think it's mostly because I'm also at most of these WordCamps. But I so the very first German WordCamp I went to was technically not a WordCamp. Was WC Köln in 2011, I think it was 2010, 2011.
11, I think
Yeah,
11.
I think 11. So that's the first one, and from that one, every single one going forward, you would meet the same group essentially. And it strikes me as that the community, the German community loves to travel because you see them everywhere. I was kind of wondering if that is indeed is my bias of seeing the same folks, or is that indeed a thing that happens? Because I know, for instance, it happens in Spain as well. People love
Mhm.
to travel in Spain, and you see the same inner crowd, so to say, from Barcelona to Madrid to Sevilla to all of those.
Yeah, I think it's fairly easy to get around in a country,
Yeah,
either
yeah,
by bus or by, yeah, okay, bus might be not the best example, but by train, if the train arrives actually, or somehow not, oftentimes. Or as you said, going by car is probably the most convenient thing you get around by.
yeah. So, um, and this is the first WordCamp you organized, or did you organize previously as well?
I was also the lead organizer of WordCamp Osnabrück, which happened in March 2019.
Yeah.
So this was my first WordCamp I organized. And yeah, that that kind of led to, in combination with all what happened in the remaining of 2019 up to like 2020, early 2020, because previously, like when I started out in 2014 in the community, there was just one WordCamp a year.
Yeah.
So that was fairly easy because, like, of course, everyone traveled there because it was just the only event that happened that year. And over the years, like there were 2 WordCamps, and then there were 3 WordCamps. And in 2019, we had the situation that there were actually 4 WordCamps in Germany, 3 of them being local and 1 being WordCamp Europe in Berlin.
Yep.
And I think it was the beginning, so early of 2020, like January or something, where like people came up, and it was, as I said earlier, like there was a WordCamp Düsseldorf at the end of November, and like 3 weeks earlier we had WordCamp Stuttgart happen. And then there was also that some people said, yeah, I'm just going to one of these WordCamps because I do not want or cannot afford to travel to 2 like within the 3 weeks. That doesn't make sense.
Yep.
And the problem here was that the community like did not talk to each other. So there was like the one organizers did not know that the other organizers made an event
Okay.
basically at the same time.
Yeah.
And in early 2020, it was like in Slack popping up, hey, we want to do a WordCamp. And then another local community, hey, we want to do a WordCamp too. And we too, and we too. And it would have ended up with, I think, 5 or 6 WordCamps within 12 months, just within Germany.
In 2020, if stuff hadn't happened.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's
And that's when I kind of wrote a rant blog post
yeah.
on my blog
One.
where I like went through all of this. It's like, hey, we have doing this WordCamps, and we have been struggling already at Osnabrück with getting enough sponsors in to actually make the WordCamp happen. It was a really tough thing. We had to cut off a few expenses. That would have been nice to have, but like you would not have needed it.
Mhm.
And that continued with other WordCamps too. It's like everyone was trying to make a event of the similar size with the similar features, like food and venue costs and everything. And it wasn't very sustainable, to be honest.
I agree. I agree. We were in the Netherlands, kind of forced in a similar situation where we just had to have. I think it was said 4 or maybe 3, but we needed to have 3 city versions of WordCamps before we were allowed to call ourselves WordCamp Netherlands again. That's a separate discussion. We thought it was
I know.
just bullshit that we were forced to be cities. Because have you seen the size of us? We're like a tiny
And I
country.
and I totally agree with you because the situation in Germany is very much the same like it is in the Netherlands. It's like we're not that of a huge community. Yes, we have more people living in Germany, but the community is, I guess, the same size, WordPress community.
Possibly, but so the similarity with the Netherlands and Germany there is that the exhaustion of volunteers, speakers, sponsors, and organizers just became too much, and this is something we knew that was going to happen way before we were well forced. It's not technically forced because you can do it or you don't. But yeah, that was a weird situation to be in, and it's interesting to see that the same thing happened in Germany. Were the So when you started volunteering there, you were already quite active in the community, helping out left and right. What made you decide to, hey, why don't I try organizing as well?
Um, I think we should start with WordCamp Osnabrück, which then leads to like what happened at WordCamp Germany. Let's put it like that.
Yep.
So at WordCamp Osnabrück, there was basically the organizing team came from the local meetup, the Münster Osnabrück meetup.
Yep.
And it was basically just I think we were 10 people at that time organizing this. And yeah, I'm not I cannot remember for sure if like I wasn't forced into it. It's like it was open, like, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
would you mind doing this as an organizer? And I was like, well, maybe.
So
I don't mind.
they tricked you.
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's became a very well-received WordCamp. I heard great feedback of it from people attending.
Yep.
So that was kind of nice. Although we had a few issues within the team back at the time, but stuff happens with people.
Yeah, I was going to say people are going to people, so there will always be issues in one way or another.
Yeah,
I think we.
and
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, and then we well, then basically the year happened as I just explained with the 2 WordCamps in November, and then the blog post I wrote, and then we had a few years of pandemic and no events at all.
Quick calm
And
down.
exactly. And at WordCamp Europe in Porto in 2022, like a couple of folks like came together, and said, let's do a WordCamp Germany finally, because now make it a WordCamp Germany and don't have to do city-based WordCamps anymore.
Yep.
So let's try it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it from a branding perspective makes just simple. The branding perspective is already for me the biggest persuader of calling it WordCamp whatever country.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of surprised that you said that the community as a whole in Germany is not as big. Do you have any idea why that is compared to other countries? I mean, is everybody hooked on Typo 3 still, or like
Well,
what's?
I hope not. Well, that's a good question. I think when I say the community is rather small, I would say like the core community. So the
Yep.
people who like actively organize the meetups, the local meetups. And when we have like, I don't know exact number, but like between 20 and 30 local meetup groups. So there are quite a few.
Yeah.
But everyone or a lot of meetups have like trouble finding new people that actually want to commit contributing to organized meetups. So there are, of course, attendees and everything, but I guess most of them do not identify as being part of the WordPress community to a point where you can say they also come to a WordCamp.
Is there a reason for that, you think? Like, is that like I'm trying to figure out what so we're seeing some of this behavior in the Netherlands after the weird 2 weird years.
Mhm.
Everybody sort of reset back to okay, I'm not doing anything. us organizing WordCamp Netherlands last year and this year. So between last year and this year, it's slowly starting to ramp back up, but meetups are still not even close to where they were.
It's the
It's
same here.
it's okay. So then I guess that's more related to the 2 year reset. But that's interesting because there are other countries where the opposite is happening. Like for instance, whatever's happening in India,
Mm.
in Pakistan, I think. There's another country I forget now, but activity is soaring there versus what's happening with us. So that's interesting to see that there's a difference between enthusiasm to pick up community stuff.
Yeah, it actually is. So we have that problem across almost all meetups in Germany. Like there were no people. For example, Meetup Nuremberg, where I'm currently the co-organizer. In what was it? September. I was alone. No one
Oh wow,
came
yeah,
for 30 minutes, and I just wanted to leave and go back home because, like, what's the point of sitting here all alone?
yeah,
And then one person came, and that was my meetup for the month of September.
interesting. Does that become disheartening, or are you just like, okay, we it's a reset, we're picking things back up?
I think we're picking things back up. It's the new thing. So in October, I was me and the co-organizer. So there were just two people at the meetup again.
Yeah,
But now in November, so we went ahead in October. We created like a schedule for the next coming meetups and like decide on what topics do we want to share as a talk. So I did this month, of course, I did a 6.4 and the 2024 default theme.
yep.
And suddenly there were 10 people. So
So
when you make it interesting enough, I guess people still will come over, but like it is definitely not this kind of community feeling you had before the pandemic when meetups had like regularly between 20 and 50. Sometimes Düsseldorf was a massive meetup. I had a talk once there about Gutenberg some years back. I think it was 2019 or something. I had 80 people there at the meetup.
yeah. So again, I think this is a trend that's more, I don't know, not global, but certainly in this part of the world, Europe, where the um, the meetups, like so in the Netherlands. So the first meetup I went to was in 2008, and that was roughly, what was that, 20 people every single meetup, and that over the years that slowly grew, and then we had a meetup in Nijmegen, which would have 125 people, if I'm not mistaken. So there were some really large meetups, like mini WordCamps almost, proper schedules, like two or three speakers, snacks, and the whole thing. And the level of enthusiasm and professionalism was just very catching, very engaging. You wanted to be there, and that sort of is gone now because yeah, the last meetup here in Leeuwarden, where I live, I think there were 11, 12 people,
Hmm.
and nobody really knew. So it's a it's a different world for sure. But I'm very curious about another topic you already touched on a little bit. You were giving a talk about what it was like. I'm presuming, but please correct me. What it was like to be part of the release squad for WordPress 6.4, where 2024 the default theme was a part of. I'd love to hear more about that because I think that's a great initiative.
Yeah. So I've been part of the 5.6 release already.
Yep.
There was also the first underrepresented gender release, as it's called nowadays. And I think it was the beginning of the year. No, it was last year at State of the World, where someone asked in the Q&A if there will be such a release again with
It was, yeah.
from underrepresented genders. And yeah, I think Matt said, of course, yes, we can do it again. So Josefa was again preparing all of this, and once the call for release members was out, I was immediately like, okay, let's do it another time, because like I think this would be fun, because like you can see it there. It's actually the 5.6
Yeah.
gift that I got
Yeah.
From the release. And yeah, I wasn't expecting, like I had not particularly chosen any specific position. I think I was just like, put me somewhere in that squad. I'm fine with doing various stuff. But with my work on 2021, so for the 5.6 release, and also doing a style variation for the 2023 default theme that was also accepted,
Yeah.
it was kind of clear that my path would be like default theme lead somehow, I guess.
Yeah, cool.
And yeah, that's where I ended up with, together with Maggie Cabrera. She's from Automatic.
Yeah.
And we both together were the default theme leads for 2024.
And does that mean you do the design part as well then? Or how does that work? How does a default theme start to become a thing?
Well, there was a slight problem. Neither me nor Maggie were designers or are designers. Like I can do things, but I would not consider myself a designer.
Yeah.
So that was actually kind of an issue, because like we were there like, well, we can do a theme, but someone has to design the theme, and that is none of us. So we got in touch with Josefa and like Chloe from the release coordination, and told them like this exact issue. And it took a while until it was figured out that we were joined by a designer, Beatriz Fialho.
Yeah.
And she did the designs for 2024. And we had an initial call with her, and it was all a bit late in the process. Let's call it like that. But
just in time.
yeah, I wish we had more time, to be honest. But yes, she did great designs on
Are there things not in 2024 that you wanted to have in there?
plenty.
Okay. Like, name me a few if you want.
I wish that the functionality to swap out complete templates would have been much more visible in another part of, like, for example, the dark sidebar you have when you're in browse mode.
Yep.
It would have been perfect there, but it was moved to a very hidden contextual menu somewhere. And that is unfortunately that's something that I had not on my radar for like too long, unfortunately, that work has to be done in like the Gutenberg repository and not for the default theme.
Yeah.
But there was so much to do and so little time. It's like this was some of the things that like unfortunately not made it into it into 6.4.
I've seen that setting. That is way too hidden.
Yeah, it is.
Especially considering so the amount of click-throughs that you have to do to access all the settings as it is already in the site editor, combined with the color styles and the palettes that you pick, and then you change, and then you overrule, and you and I'm saying this because I built quite a few over the last couple of weeks, quite a few themes. The amount of clicking through that you have to do to get all the settings is already quite high. And then to have stuff in there that's sort of hidden, yeah, that's a shame. Having said that, I am, it's been years that I was enthusiastic about a default theme. how it works and how it looks and the functionality that is in there. I think the last one I got somewhat excited over was 2013 because I liked that it was different and more geared towards blogging. It had the focus with post formats as well. I like
Mm.
that from a blogging perspective. I set up a site for it for my mom. She still uses it. So and then this 2024 is I think the first one that I like. Yeah, this is it has opinions. There's stuff in there that makes you okay. So this is how you do it, but it's also flexible enough for you to make it into something entirely different. And for me, that's what a default theme should be. Um, I've missed that over the last couple of years. Like too opinionated. Like I get it because I build stuff like this, but end users who have no clue what they're doing with their site and just click on it and are greeted with a screen that's 50% black and a bird flying through and 50% some text, like that doesn't make any sense to them. Um, so yeah, I'm congratulations with that one because I think that is
You.
one was knocked out of the park.
Yeah, I think it was kind of so when Maggie and I met first time at WordCamp Europe this year, just like a few days after it was announced, the squad was announced for 6.4.
Yeah,
And I was already thinking, so, okay, maybe just, I will just share like what I have as a vision for a default theme. Because as you said, like the previous default themes, they were like, yeah, okay, but what can I do with it?
yep,
Mostly
exactly.
mostly just a blog. And this is, in my opinion, that's what WordPress isn't anymore. It's not just a blog system. It can be so much more.
Yep,
And I thought default themes of the previous years just never reflected that. And uh, basically, I told that Maggie, and she was on fire from minute one. And I was
awesome.
like, okay, I think this is going to be good at some point. And then we had Beatrice joining us as a designer. And like we had an initial call where we exactly told her what we would expect from a default theme. And she did an amazing job on creating these designs.
She did. She did absolutely.
And yeah, that's from where we started off, because of course it had to go through, I guess, a few iterations at Automatic. Because like at the end of the day, the default theme still has to be decided by Matt if it's a yes or a no.
Yep.
And well, luckily we got a yes and could start working
Did you get any
on.
no's before you got the yes, or how does that work? Is it
Well, I
sitting a
remember
tiny
I,
bit, or
I remember from 5.6 there were three different designs that I saw. So the designer provided three different designs and Matt chose one.
yep,
But now I'm not sure if there was anything else in the background, but what I saw is like we just had that one suggestion and that was basically it. So there wasn't very much of a choice at the moment.
okay, oh yeah,
So, but yeah, it's not too bad. And I think it's just a great showcase of what you can actually do with WordPress, how you can make it your own. And it really shows off the vision that I had for the default theme. And I'm very, very happy that it's been received so well, like across many people. So many
I
people have given me that feedback that you just gave me.
yeah, I think you should be more than happy. I think you should be proud. I know it's more than you doing it, but I don't think it can be overstated the power that the default theme has in terms of showing what WordPress is capable of.
Yep.
It's been, we're we're at the end of 2013. That means we're 13 years in from no longer exclusively being a blog. Um, Custom post types were introduced in 2009, 2010. Um, and yet, this is what we continuously hear, right? Just a blog. No, it can still power a blog, but it's way more than that. And I think we have responsibility as release leads in terms of showing off what the possibilities of a theme are. And I think again, yeah, I'm just going to give you the same compliment again, but I think it's just a perfect example of what a default theme should be. How does it feel like knowing that all these people are using the theme that you helped oversight on? That's got to be a special feeling.
I think I'm still not at the point where I have processed that, to be honest, because there
Ah,
has been so much going on
yeah, sure.
simultaneously. Even I mean, WordCamp Germany, we had that before. It just
Yeah,
happened a month ago, and that was shortly after the release candidate, the first release candidate,
yeah.
and then well, WordCamp Germany happened. I started in a job. The release happens. Like there was so much, and I still have a backlog of things to process. So
It'll catch up with you. It'll catch up with you.
I hope so.
And I think it's so I have a few very small minor contributions to core. One of them is inside the 2010 theme, if I remember correctly, and that was just it was a nothing change, but
It all
regard
starts with that.
hmm?
It all starts with a nothing change.
Exactly, but the idea that because I did or contributed to that change, the thought of the impact that that had when you start calculating how many sites are affected and how many sites are using the theme, like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And for you, that's quite a few levels up. So, but you mentioned a very busy period that you're sort of wrapping up. You started working for Grade. You already mentioned you work as a developer.
Mhm.
Can you share a little bit more about that particular side of Jessica?
That particular side of Jessica, being a web developer for
Well,
17 years.
yeah,
Well,
I was going to ask. So, how long have you? But there, what he is, yeah,
yeah, it's been a long time already. So I started out when there was no social networks, where we had forums and
I-
guest books. I
yeah,
don't know if they were a thing in the Netherlands too, but they were
yeah,
definitely a thing in Germany.
yeah, yeah. They were.
And um, yeah, that's when I started out. Actually, it's kind of when I think about it, it's like ooh, it has been a while,
the
but yeah.
the amount of years that fly by in this particular line of work are quite different than anything else that I've done before. So I'm 50. I've been working for 35 years, I guess, in total. Um, Switched to this type of work when I was 31, 32. So the last 18 years. What I find interesting about the period of learning and the period and the years that fly by is that every single year there's like two or three major things that you have to refocus on if you're doing the type of work that we're doing. Like, would you say that's the same thing happening for you?
I'm not sure if it would be two or three things a year, but definitely you cannot allow yourself to not learn something new. That's what happened to me. And for a long time, I ignored like the new JavaScript world
Yeah,
with React and everything.
I still do.
And it caught up on me, but I got around. So I am now feeling a bit more comfortable with doing so. And I still feel like there's a bit more that I can learn about, but I've definitely made some progress on this. But it's definitely true that you should always like follow what's new, what changes, or maybe where you can just have a fun project or something. Because I didn't do that for a couple of years, and I felt like when I had to catch up and look for a new job, it's not that easy anymore.
No, no, it's a quite different world now. which is when I jokingly said I haven't caught up with the React side of things in JavaScript. I don't plan to either. I'm
Okay.
just I'm like, okay, this is fine if it passes me by. Um, I want to focus on other things anyway. So, but you are working for Grade now. That's an interesting company because they do two different things, and that's quite rare. They are an agency. I think you mentioned in the intro. They are an
Mhm.
agency, and they have a product.
Yep.
My
Mhm.
curiosity is, what made you decide to want to work in such a mixed environment? Because for most people working in the WordPress community in one way with code, um, it's usually you're either on the agency side of things or you're building products and services, and this is clearly something else. So, kind of curious for your motivation here.
I think overall, the main motivation for me was not to have this mix, to be honest. So I did like what I did for the first 15 years of my professional career was I was basically doing agency work. And by the time of late 2021, early 2022, I hit a point where I was just so bored of it. I couldn't find any fun in it anymore. I still like coding, but for me, when you have all sorts of clients. You have clients that are amazing to work with, which you totally enjoy, but then there are also clients who just where you wish the project would be over finally.
Yeah,
And I felt like even though there were some projects with good clients, I felt like it was not exciting anymore because it was the same thing over and over again.
yeah,
And that was kind of boring to me. And that's when I did like a little break from working. Some people call it a sabbatical.
yep.
Well, I did not. It didn't feel like a sabbatical to me, to be honest. Now, and that I reflect back on it,
Why not? Did you end up doing too much?
I don't know. I feel like all the things that I wanted to do, I didn't do. It sucked a bit, but that was my own fault. So yeah, but it was still a good thing to not work for a while. Uh, so yeah, and I think no, I lost it. Uh,
Figure it out.
so for me, the part when I was again looking for a job in summer of 2022, yes, two. Um, I really wanted to go away from the agency side because like I had a break for a couple months, but no, I want to see something new. And
Totally understandable.
yeah, I ended up at Extendify,
Yep.
which was a very great experience to working full time on a product. And I just enjoyed that you usually do not have any pressure on how uh, fast you need to do things. Because
That's big.
sometimes when you have clients, it needs to be done like yesterday.
Yep.
And yeah, when it came time this year to look for another job, I was still like, agency, yeah, I could, but I do not want to.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, and the thing with Grade is, I was particularly curious about their product. So I've seen and watched them before, like what they're doing and what's on there. And when I was in conversation with them, I really liked their like the human side of the business, as well as like what they're doing. And for me, I saw that I could actually work on uh, uh, WordPress again with
Yeah.
the blog editor and the site editor. And that was actually the main reason why I decided to go there and join them.
So are you working on their agency side more or on the product as well? How does that work?
Currently on the product.
Okay, cool.
So maybe I will join a client project, but for now, they do not have many client projects at the moment. They have quite a couple, but it's not that like they're so much of them, and they're well taken care of. So
yeah.
I can dive into the product, and that's a lot of fun at the moment.
So for those listening that have no clue what that product is, can you explain it? Because it's a very interesting product.
Yeah, so the Great Suite is like a combination of different things, actually, hence the name Suite. It has some features that are interesting for people or a lot or like enterprise, the enterprise area of WordPress. So we have things like global content, which means you can have content at multiple sites. It has a lot of different multi-site features, but also they provide additional blocks that enhance the blog editor way more than the core blocks do. And it has various different features, and all combined together makes it a very versatile product to work on with a website.
I think that's so I've seen a demo of it at WordCamp Germany. It is an extremely versatile solution, uh, solving problems that you need for multiple sites in a very different way. It was refreshing to see. Um, so yeah, but the switch from agency to products, I get. Um, I did a sabbatical myself for the sort of similar reason. I stopped working at Surfbolt, and then kind of went like, so what do I want to do now? I don't want to do just the agency side of things again, but I want to like what excites me.
Mm.
And I've always enjoyed the performance side of things, and I've always done that, but I've never advertised it. So I understand the reboot and the need for sort of a fresh approach to the same topic, because ultimately it's still code, right? It's still
Exactly.
you're writing the same type of
And
stuff.
I'm still enjoying it, coding, but like the environment is just different
Yeah,
to
but
what you're doing with the code.
exactly. But it's funny to because I think I hear that you say the same thing, but writing the code is not the thing. It is the environment and the purpose that you're writing the code for that makes it an interesting day, at least for me. And by the sound of
Yeah,
it,
for me too.
that works for you as well. And I know developers who just go like, just give me heaps and lines of code that I just need to refactor, and I'm happy. It doesn't matter what it needs to do. Just let me do that. I know developers who go, I don't care what I need to build. Just tell me what I need to build. And
That's not me.
and then me neither. But I go like, that's amazing that you have that ability, because I do not have that. I need to have a purpose. Um, and there's so many different ways that motivate different strokes of people to build new cool stuff, or even not even new stuff, just refactor stuff. um, I'm always amazed at the variety of motivations that people have to work. And I guess it's not limited to code in of itself, but coding is a good example of where uh, it's essentially the same thing, but it depends so much under in which environment, under which stress, for what purpose, all of those things. Um, I'm there's one thing that I'm also curious about. So you have been working in this line of field for 17 years, you said.
Mhm.
You've contributed to a great many different parts of WordPress. I've seen your profiles.wordpress.org site, so profile page, I should say. There's a whole bunch of stuff that is checked off for you. What is the thing you're most proud of?
Well, now I can say 2024, I guess.
I would expect so, but it can be the small, the different, and the little things that are just happening somewhere along the line.
I think now this year has been quite an interesting year in contributions. Of course, for 2024, for the 6.4 release.
Yeah.
Being the lead organizer for WordCamp Germany, because I think I forgot to mention this earlier, because the German community that was like coming together and saying, hey, we want to do a WordCamp, they trusted me. And I was asked to do the lead organizer. So it wasn't me that was pushing forward and being there like, hey, I'm going to do it. No, I was asked by the community to do so.
Yeah.
And
that is a huge compliment.
Thank you. And another thing that is probably not well known by many people is that I helped making the default themes, the older default themes, GDPR ready by removing the Google fonts.
Ah, okay.
I was involved in this.
So the whole of Germany thanks you even more.
Well, the whole of Europe, I guess, because we all have that problem everywhere.
From my experience in Germany, the privacy laws are followed up a little bit more meticulously than the rest of Europe. I think the Netherlands is doing fine there as well, but it always it's noticeable how much more the Germans care about it.
Yeah, I mean, we had this, it popped up somewhere, I cannot remember when it was. Was it this year or last year already? I think last year already. And then it took a couple months until like I had to nag a few more people like, hey, what's going on? What can we do here to like finally make that happen? Because it was like laying around for a couple months. And what happened was actually that someone got sued on their web because of the website, because it was using Google fonts. And
yeah.
I mean, they had to pay like $100, but yeah, okay, it could have been avoided. And the reason was it because the person used a default theme and didn't know that there were Google fonts being loaded.
Yeah, and then it makes perfect sense. There's no. I'm not trying to take away or bring any negativity to the privacy component. I think it's something we need to be. We should all treat it the way I perceive Germans treating it. But it's that again. That's a very nice unknown but impactful thing to do.
Yeah, and I think it's such as like because I'm German or because that came around, because like of course it happened in Germany.
Yeah.
But
so the lawsuit was in Germany?
Sorry?
The lawsuit was in Germany?
Yes. In Munich, actually. And we all know that privacy isn't a focus in WordPress.
No.
Sadly, actually. So, and that's why someone has to step up and actually do something about it.
Yeah.
So I wrote the issue back then, and Hendrik Lürsen added some pull requests for it, but it got stuck somewhere in the middle. But then you had to be, hello, there is still this issue going around. What can we do to finally make it happen?
Was the trigger that litigation had started, or was the trigger that it needed to be fixed? And hey, here's an example.
We felt it just needed to be fixed.
Yeah.
Because Hendrik and I were both pretty much annoyed that like this was still the case, and eventually someone was sued just because of using a default theme, which shouldn't be for an open source project like WordPress.
So if I understand this correctly, if we want to get some stuff done, we need to get either you or Henrik annoyed. Is that the road?
No, I don't think so. But
No.
it's usually a good trigger. It's unfortunately not everything is done, but I don't know how to say that. Like there are many things where people are not happy with WordPress in some way and want to fix it, but don't know how to fix it or doesn't get too much attention. And I think the key here in that case with the Google fonts was because like I went into the core dev chats and asked people, what can we do here
Mhm.
to make that happen, to make that pull request getting merged? And I think oftentimes people just like make a ticket and maybe even do a pull request, but it gets lost somehow because like everyone else working on the releases is just so busy with other things that have a higher priority,
Yeah.
which is kind of sad, but like it's such a huge project at the end of the day, so you have to be.
It's also life and the planning of not of your life running right through stuff like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what is the final advice you can give for anyone being annoyed? Because I do like that trigger. Uh, anyone being annoyed with something currently happening in WordPress, and it's something that can be fixed in the direction you would like it to be. So I'm not looking for the people who go like, "Oh, great, let me see if we can get the classic editor back." I'm not looking at those types of things. But what is the
Neither.
what is the yeah? What is the best advice you can give for people wanting to find a solution but don't know where to start or don't have the skills, or what should they do?
Well, that's a very tricky question because like there is not an easy answer to this.
I'll go for the easiest one you can find.
Well, I would just ask you a question. What is the one sentence that a doctor, a lawyer, and a developer shares as the most favorite?
No?
It depends.
Okay. I think I did know.
And I think that's the case. Like it depends on what kind of issue it is. And I think generally you need some kind of knowledge how WordPress works, how the releases work,
Yeah.
how the people involved, what is their job actually, like their contribution job, not their like day job where they earn money. And it took me years to like understand how WordPress works and how the contributions work in different areas, whether it be the community team or the core team. And I think when you need an open mind to see that, of course, things could have or could be done better than they're done now, but they go like a certain way, and you have to understand that. And the best thing is, I think, when you have a special question or regard, is to join one of these meetings, like
Mhm.
the dev chat.
Yep.
There's always an open floor at the end when the agenda is basically done. You can
Computer ask.
raise your hand and ask a question there.
Oh.
And I think that's maybe a good way to get started, because then it raises awareness for those people who are around,
Hmm.
and B might even have someone doing a follow-up task, or someone else gets notified about this, and then you just have to, after that, you have to um, go back there every now and then when you see there's no progress being done, and ask again, but stay friendly. I think that's the key, because most people do it in their free time,
Yep.
their contributions, and it's supposed to be a fun thing, but it can be also a not so fun thing, maybe sometimes for some people.
Yeah,
So just be kind generally when you reach out.
I think that's the best advice you could give. Just be kind. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I've appreciate it. Learned a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Thanks so much.